And so thank you to whoever left these beautiful roses here. They're just stunning, and the fragrance is awesome. So hello, everybody, and good morning, and welcome into Sunday, and not only Sunday, but the 1st of March, and the first Sunday of March. And it's been an auspicious week, really. We had Lent beginning on Wednesday. We had a leap year celebration yesterday. And now today we're celebrating a new month. And with it, this month is coming in with the focus on the feminine aspect of life and living. This is the month of women's history. And in our community, our international community, we are looking for the month at the divine feminine, no less, the divine feminine. And straight away, I don't know what conjures up in your mind when you think of the divine feminine, but I can guarantee you it's not what Spirit has in mind. It's more than that. So we'll be looking at that and seeing where we, all of us, fit into that picture. And so today we're looking at that large, deep, labyrinthine topic through God as gender. Now, I know that probably like myself, you don't often sit down and start thinking about God as gender. You know, it's something that comes to mind when it's presented to us, usually. And so when we're thinking of that, all we're thinking about, again, and there's only ever one thing to think about, and that is the diversity of this thing that we call the divine. The diversity, the multiplicity. It's unbelievable. We don't even know anything like how diverse Spirit is, but we're kind of getting more of a notion of it. And so when we talk about this thing called God, that's not God at all, thanks be to goodness. I'm glad God is not what we have made God out to be. But this thing called God is the unnameable, that which cannot be defined, but we do the best as human beings to do that. So for me, G-O-D, God is glorious, omniscient divinity. Glorious, omniscient divinity. Now, that's not a person. It's glorious, omniscient divinity. It's an energy. It's a power. It's a force. It's an infinite intelligence, and it is a presence. A presence, a palpable presence that you can feel, and that you can see in form. Yes, you can see God. Yes, you can feel God to some extent, the best extent that we can. We see the divine in all of creation because the divine is creation in form. I can see it in a flower, in a tree, in a sunset, in a baby, in everything. Every single thing in the earth, in the sky, in the sea, and I could go on and on. I can also feel God's energy because it is an energy. It is an intuitive realization and sensation when I am consciously connected with my source. And I can feel that energy moving through me, and so can you. You know, we always talk about God bumps. Used to be goose pimples, but they're God bumps here. And so you can sense and feel and touch and have an experience of the divine, even though we're human beings in human form. And the reason why we can is because we're not just human beings in human form. We are divine beings too, because in the image and likeness we are made. So let's get to God as gender. Well, now, gender is not to be confused with sex. Sex is biology, okay? Sex is simply biology. Gender, however, is much more complex and more expansive. Gender is a tendency, an orientation, an affinity. a sense and a sensibility. That's what gender is. Now, once upon a time, for a long time, we always thought two sexes, males and females, the masculine and the feminine and the masculine. Men were men and women were women, and they were very different. Could be one from Mars, maybe one from Venus, who knows? Who knows? But never the twain shall meet kind of thing. Oh, you know, women are just women. Men, well, you know, men. Men will be men, you know. And we're accompanied by music to understand that this is no small thing. It deserves music and song. And so, when we're trying to move through the labyrinth of gender, it's awesome today. Because we no longer think you're a male, that's it, you're a female, that's it. We don't think like that anymore. We understand gender to be very fluidic now. Very fluidic. Because the male aspect and the female aspect of the divine is within each and every one of us. There's no such thing as only a male species or only a female species. Within the female species, there is the male element. Within the male species, there is the female element. Like it or lump it, that's how it is. That's just how it is. And so when we talk about the feminine aspect of God, you hear people talk about Father, Mother, God, and so on and so forth. Well, Father, Mother, God kind of doesn't really do it for me, because that's too close to humanity's definition of father and mother, and that can be good, bad, or indifferent, either way. So I prefer to think of the female aspect and the male aspect, the feminine and masculine aspect within the whole divine arena. Go back to the divine arena. It is a threefold thing. There are three aspects to it. There is spirit, there is soul, there is body in the way we think in our teaching. It's the orthodox Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Same thing, very same thing, we just have different names. So for us, spirit is the active element in mind. It's the thing that thinks of an idea, comes up with an idea. Then it projects. It's active, projective, and masculine. It projects that idea into the feminine aspect of itself, which is soul, which is creative, receptive, and feminine. And when this idea is projected from spirit into its receptive component, it is moved upon by soul, and the energy between the two, the commingling of the energies between the two, or the union between the two, or the activity between the two, or the interaction between the two, produces form. And the form that is produced is all of creation. All of creation came out of a divine idea through the creative medium of spirit, which is soul, female aspect. And that's how you and I and all of creation came into being. So the divine impregnates an idea, and that idea is moved upon by what Ernest Holmes calls, the universal feminine, or the holy womb of creation. And the result is manifestation of some form or another. That's how all of creation came into being. And that's exactly the same way that you and I create. The very same way as the divine creates, you and I create. We have an idea, the consciousness of ourselves, the outer consciousness of ourselves has an idea. It drops down into the inner consciousness of ourselves. moved upon, they're all churned up, the churning takes place, and then it produces an outcome. A headache, or a stomach ache, or an unexpected holiday, or some good thing. That's how it happens. And this activity of creativity is going on all of the time. You and I are creators all of the time because all thought is creative. And you and I are just like the divine. There's a threefold aspect to us. You know, there is a threefold aspect to as we contemplate an idea. The idea is dropped into the subconscious mind or the inner mind. It's worked upon in the womb of creation, which is the inner mind, and then we give birth to something or another, good, bad, or indifferent, that we can experience and realize. Now, here's the thing about the feminine aspect of spirit. We're beginning to understand the feminine aspect of spirit in a whole different way now than ever we have before. Before, it was really, for a long, long time, ignored. Once upon a time, the female energy was dominant in humankind for a little while. But that was put stop to way back when. And then from there on in, the masculine element became dominant in society. But now we're in this great, great cusping transitional time where we're ready, believe it or not, to come into a more balanced way of understanding ourselves and understanding life, where the feminine and the masculine can commingle in such a way that the outcome is wondrous. The outcome is wondrous. And it's an equal opportunity for both aspects to be in the world, creating together something wondrous, something great, something new, and something grand that we have never seen before or witnessed before. But when this is happening, there's a lot of confusion. Change always brings about some kind of confusion to begin with until we get it straightened out. And we're in the process of straightening everything out now as far as gender is concerned and the female and male aspects of spirit that show up in gender. And gender now is not one thing or another. It's much more fluidic, and there's a great variety showing up as far as gender is concerned. And it's amazing, it's awesome, it's wonderful, and I say, why not? Because we're not limited. Do you understand that? We've never been confined to any one thing. We were not created as one thing to remain as one thing. We are created to expand and grow in wisdom, knowledge, and grace. And that's what we're doing right now. That is what we are doing right now. And you and I have to find our way in this labyrinth so that we can walk through it confidently and comfortably, understanding that all of life is sacred. And it doesn't matter if I'm green or gray or purple with yellow dots, or I have 3 eyes instead of 2, or however. It's all God in God's own different way of showing up. I loved that scene in one of the first movies with regard to Star Wars series, where everybody finds themselves in this bar, and in this bar, my God, there are creatures of all kinds, shapes, makes, and forms, and human beings too, and everybody's mixing, mingling, having a good time, slapping each other on the back, saying, hi, it's good to see you today. How are your 4 eyes doing? You know, whatever. Now, we need to have that happen with us so that we are not surprised by something in us showing up that's different to most of us, or apparently most of us, you see. So gender in its variety is a great good thing. All of the way God shows up is a great good thing. And the only thing you and I have to be concerned about is not the color of somebody, not the gender of somebody, not the race of somebody, not the creed of somebody, but the character of everyone. The character. That one thing that's common to us all. The one thing that unites us. The one thing that is the same in every single one of us, however we show up. The presence and the power of an infinite beingness that is undeniable. And we are just cusping with regard to understanding this to any great degree with regard to differences in diversity and unity in it all. We're just about at the toddler stage here with all of that. But we're learning and we're growing and we're advancing. And I think it's stunning. It's awesome. It's amazing. Once upon a time, handicapped people, that's what we call people, handicapped, were really very insecure when they were out amongst us all because they felt that they were looked upon as less than. There was a time when somebody might be wheeling somebody in a wheelchair. They're fine, healthy and well otherwise, but they can't walk. And people are talking over them saying, well, how is she doing now? Is she doing okay? Like she couldn't speak for herself, and so on. We've come a long way. Certainly we've come a long way from the time I was a child. We're not seeing any of this now. Those of us who are truth students, that is, those of us who are committed to seeing the sacred in everything and everyone, those of us who know that there is unity in diversity and diversity in unity, we're just meeting life as it comes to us, however it shows up before us, in whatever shape, make, or form it shows up. It's our opportunity to do this. And it's our opportunity to be that objective presence in the world today, to be that non-judgmental presence in the world today, to be interested, to be open in awe and wonder to understanding the ways in which we are all so differently one. And God knows you can find that under the roof of one family. You can see a family with 5 children and you'd wonder if those children were even related to each other. They're so different. And then you can find the opposite too, you see. So for you and for me, this opportunity to be focused on the divine feminine is great because it has to do with what? Creativity. And your power to create and my power to create and everybody else's power to create, and to be fascinated by what we're all creating. Fascinated by it, provided it's all good and very good. Provided none of that is doing any harm. You see. So there is so much going on in our world under our noses that could cause us to be full of awe and wonder and interest and curiosity. We've got to get back our sense of curiosity, the curiosity we had as children. Children, they saw what they saw, they were awed by it, and they didn't judge it. I can remember Harry Cullen coming up. He must have been about 6, and my mother and a neighbor, they were talking, and one of the neighbor was heavily pregnant, and Harry Cullen is going, "Oh, why is Mrs. Fitzpatrick shaped like a pear?" And he wanted to go up and feel this pear, you see? And I think that's the kind of curiosity we need to have in the face of differences. Curiosity in a good way. Awe and wonder in a beautiful way. And to get on the inside of what we don't understand, or what we have yet to be made aware of. How can we do that if we don't mix and mingle with each other? Got to stop the nonsense now. The world right now, since it is going through the turbulence and the truculence of transition, and we're in the cusp. In the cusp, it's kind of like that. It's like a meteor shower at times. We've got to hold firm and know, gosh, there's something amazing going on right now. Something awesome is about to happen. And I just have to fasten my seatbelt and hold on and go with the ride and be all that I can be while I'm doing that. Not to be one of those people who put the brakes on and resist change at every turn and twist and say, I don't like this and I want it to be the way it always has been. Well, it can't. Nothing is ever going to stay the same as it always has been. It's just not going to happen. And you and I need to kind of grow up and grow into understanding that life is one thing and one thing alone, and it's constant, continuous change. Change for the better, I say. So, looking at this month and the divine feminine, let us be aware of ourselves and what that masculine and feminine energy is looking like, showing up like in you and in me. And what do we think about it, and how do we respond to it, and understand that it doesn't matter what gender we are, it's okay to be soft and gentle. It's okay to be strong and potent. It's okay. Because remember, in the divine feminine, the femininity is tempered with the steel of the masculinity, and vis-a-vis. We are both. And at any given time, one will be prominent in us. Even though we may come into this world with a definite prominence in either being male or female, there are times when the female is going to take over in the male and be the prominent one. And there are times when it happens the same way, when the male will take over in the female and be the prominent one. Do we understand that? Do we get that? I'm knowing we're good with that. That's just how it is. So let me tell you, we're not that different from each other, men and women. We really aren't. We just want to think that because we feel keep them over there and we can stay over here, so that, you know, the women can hang out with the women and the men can hang out with the men. And that's fine. At times we need to do that. But also we have to understand we're more alike than we are apart from each other. We truly, really are. And so it's okay to be in each other's company. Now, they still have a challenge in Ireland, I'm sure of it, at least in the golf clubs, in the country clubs, because all the women sit in all of the lovely, comfortable, you know, seats and so on, tables and booths, and they hang out, and all the men hang around the bar. And they come over to the women from time to time and say, you all right, honey? Would you like a drink, darling? Would you like a nut? Will I fill up your glass? And so on. And the men are quite content with that, to be over here. And the women are quite content with being over there, you see. That's different. That's chosen. But as soon as the women feel they've had enough, they'll go over to the men. Or as soon as the men have had enough of the men, they'll come over to the women. And there you have that. But remember, Ireland was a place once upon a time when you went to church, the men all sat on that side and the women all sat on that side. When you went to a dance, in the dance hall, the men all sat on that side and the women all sat on that side, you see. That's the way it was for eons. Now it's different. Now you would be surprised at yourself with how set you are in the way you think about this and that, male or female, female or male. You'd be surprised at how set you are in your thinking in those terms. So I'm saying let's shuffle it up this week and let's start thinking different. Women, try and get in touch with your male essence and see how that works and how it shows up. Men, try and get in touch with your female essence and see how that works and how that shows up. Let's experiment here. Let's experiment here. So that when men and women sit down to talk to each other, especially when it's serious business, the men can go, well, let me see now, what does my feminine aspect in me say here? How should I respond to this from my feminine aspect? And ladies, you can go, oh, what would the men be thinking right now? And how would the men respond to a situation like this? Let me bring that up and see. Why not? It sounds like fun to me. It really does. It's a wonderful thing, this thing called life, this thing called the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We're just focused on the divine feminine right now because for a long time, she was denied. And now she's saying, enough already. Come on, slap yourself, snap out of it. Get together, get the balance going here, and let us do life the way life can be done. Celebrating our unity and our diversity as one great good thing. Let us come together as the one thing that you and I are. The one thing that you and I are, were, and always will be, if we so choose. What is that one thing? Each one of us, a point of power through which the infinite divine in its diverse ways can show up through us in all of its radiant magnificence if you and I allow ourselves to be its outlet. It's always pouring into us, but the choice to release it is yours and is mine. What is it going to be? Settle for the same old, limited idea, small idea that I have of myself and others? Or am I going to break out of that box and go for the whole and the complete and the full expression of spirit, of life, by means of me, right here, right now, because I can, and if I choose that, and if I intend that, I will show up as that, and that's the truth, and so it is.